Human desire is a labyrinth, a maze of impulses, fears, and unspoken longings, and women, like all humans, navigate its corridors with a mixture of conscious choice and unconscious compulsion. Most men, however, are blind to the deeper architecture of this maze. They see only what is visible on the surface: charm, beauty, confidence. They chase, flatter, and perform, mistaking their actions for influence, yet fail to perceive the hidden currents that actually drive desire. Machiavelli, the unparalleled master of human nature, understood a truth that most men never grasp. Influence is rarely about force, overt persuasion, or domination. True power lies in perception, in the subtle management of attention, and in the strategic orchestration of emotional response. Today, we will peel back the layers and reveal the hidden weakness embedded in every woman's mind. A weakness that is invisible, yet capable of shaping desire with near magical potency. At the heart of this weakness lies a paradox. Women, like all humans, crave certainty, security, and stability, but they are equally and irresistibly drawn to that which is rare, untouchable, and autonomous. And no, this attraction has nothing to do with wealth, social standing, or even physical perfection. These are merely superficial signals, empty ornaments that cannot ignite true fascination. The real magnetism, the kind that lingers in thought, that haunts imagination, comes from mastery. The mastery of self, the mastery of emotion, and the mastery of presence. When a man embodies these qualities, he does something extraordinary. He awakens a psychological tension she cannot consciously resist. It is the tension between the known and the unknown, between security and exhilaration, between comfort and the thrill of the unattainable. Observe the way women test men. A sudden withdrawal of warmth, a subtle tease, a faintly cold remark. These are not acts of cruelty, nor signs of rejection. They are instinctual probes, calibrated by evolution, measuring a man's inner foundation. Here, the hidden weakness becomes clear. A woman's mind responds most intensely to signals of independence and control. When she senses neediness, desperation, or overeagerness, her attraction diminishes, often invisibly. But when she encounters a man who is calm, composed, and unshakably anchored in himself, something remarkable happens. Her mind cannot help but focus. Her imagination stirs. Desire is awakened, not by what he gives her, but by what he withholds. The deliberate absence that creates scarcity, curiosity, and psychological tension. This is the invisible architecture of attraction. Men chase, women respond. Yet the truly rare man flips this dynamic. He does not chase, and she cannot help but follow. His presence is measured, his attention selective, and his life deliberately governed by his own values. This is not manipulation. It is mastery. And in this mastery lies the key to the hidden weakness in every woman. She cannot resist the allure of a man who is both fully himself and untouchable, a man who exists on his own terms. Every glance, every moment of silence, every reserved gesture becomes a subtle signal that triggers fascination at the deepest psychological level. Desire, in this context, is a quiet storm. It is not manufactured by gifts, flattery, or constant attention. It is cultivated by restraint, by self-possession, and by an unwavering command of one's own life. A man who embodies these qualities becomes a lodestone, drawing the mind and imagination of a woman in ways she cannot articulate. The hidden weakness is this: the more she senses his independence, the more she becomes entangled in the tension he creates. The more he remains untouchable, the stronger her unconscious pull becomes. And in that pull lies the secret. desire is not captured. It is awakened, engineered, and ultimately surrendered to the man who knows how to command the invisible currents of the human mind. Let me illustrate with a concrete example. Picture a woman texting a man repeatedly, testing the boundaries of his interest, probing for signals, seeking reassurance. The average man responds instantly, crafting perfect replies, revealing his thoughts, emotions, and intentions with every message. He appears eager, predictable, and fully available. And the effect? Attraction quietly diminishes. The very act of over-communication communicates neediness, and the hidden currents of desire begin to falter. Now contrast this with the rare man, the one who operates on an entirely different frequency. He responds selectively, deliberately, and always with an air of calm assurance. His replies are brief but meaningful, never hurried, never reactive. He does not explain himself. He does not justify. He does not bend to her expectations. He exists entirely on his own terms, impervious to tests or subtle manipulations. And here is where the hidden weakness asserts itself. Her mind begins to chase. Curiosity sparks. She begins to analyze, to speculate, to imagine his life and his inner world. What started as simple intrigue transforms into fascination, and fascination, when properly stoked, inevitably ignites desire. This is the quiet, invisible power at work, the psychological lever that few men even understand exists. Another crucial insight: women are instinctively wired to detect value, but value is rarely communicated through words or claims. It is felt, deeply and unconsciously. A woman may declare independence, proclaim that she doesn't need a man, and yet her psyche craves what cannot be possessed, controlled, or fully understood. Machiavelli, centuries ago, recognized this truth. The strongest form of influence is not brute force, domination, or manipulation. It is the creation of irresistible psychological tension. By embodying rarity, autonomy, and mystery, a man positions himself within a zone of magnetic influence. Here, her mind is compelled to orbit him, regardless of her conscious intentions, like a satellite drawn to a gravitational force it cannot resist. The mind of a woman is extraordinarily perceptive, almost surgical in its sensitivity. She reads emotions with lightning speed, detects insecurity, evaluates potential partners with instinctive precision. But here lies the vulnerability, the very traits that make a man difficult to decipher: his calm confidence, his unshakable self-possession, his refusal to seek validation, trigger a deep, unconscious fascination. The human brain craves challenge, ambiguity, and novelty. When she cannot predict his reactions, when his behavior defies expectation, her mind begins to fill in the gaps. She imagines his thoughts, interprets his silences, projects meaning onto his every action, and, without realizing it, constructs desire in her own mind. This is the hidden weakness. She cannot resist the mental engagement of a man who cannot be fully claimed. The more he maintains his independence, the more he embodies mystery, the stronger her unconscious pull becomes. Desire is no longer a product of attention or pursuit. It is a creation of absence, tension, and the unspoken allure of mastery. A man who understands this is not chasing attraction. He is engineering it, weaving fascination into the very architecture of her mind. In that subtle, invisible space, he becomes unforgettable, irresistible, and profoundly magnetic. Machiavelli's lesson is deceptively simple, yet profoundly powerful. Do not mistake withdrawal for rejection, and do not confuse testing for a lack of interest. These are not obstacles. They are signals of her unconscious craving for a man who is not fully accessible. a man whose inner world cannot be penetrated at will. The strategic response is never to chase, to justify, or to compete for attention. Those are the behaviors of the ordinary, the predictable, the easily forgotten. The rare man responds differently. He elevates himself, maintains calm mastery, and allows desire to unfold naturally, like a tide that cannot be forced, but can only be timed. Presence, rarity, and self-ownership are not mere tactics. They are psychological weapons, invisible, yet irresistible, wielded silently, but with devastating effect. Now step into the reality of human interaction. A man who is fully self-owned never compromises his principles to appease another. He is immune to emotional manipulation, selective in his attention, deliberate in his communication, and purposeful in every action he takes. To a woman testing boundaries, he becomes a puzzle she cannot solve, not out of cruelty, but because he is guided by principles she cannot influence or override. This is the source of his magnetism, a force that pulls without effort, that fascinates without performing. Her mind, hardwired to detect autonomy, mastery, and unyielding presence, experiences an irresistible pull. Fascination escalates naturally, morphing into obsession, not because of overt coercion, but because the man aligns perfectly with the hidden psychological currents that govern human desire. Finally, let us confront a truth many men refuse to face. This hidden weakness is universal. It transcends age, experience, intelligence, and apparent independence. No matter how self-sufficient or confident a woman appears, her mind is innately drawn to strength, autonomy, and the aura of untouchable mastery. This is not about manipulation or coercion. It is about understanding the invisible architecture of desire and positioning oneself as a force that cannot be resisted. Machiavelli's genius lay in recognizing that true control lies not in domination, but in alignment with natural psychological patterns. To awaken desire, one does not chase. It is embodied. One does not explain. It is simply expressed through presence, composure, and unshakable self-ownership. The hidden weakness in every woman's mind is simple, yet staggering in its implications. She cannot resist a man who embodies complete self-mastery, rare presence, and untouchable autonomy. Desire does not originate from attention, gifts, or flattery. It is born from psychological tension, strategic absence, and the magnetic allure of a man who cannot be possessed, predicted, or controlled. Centuries ago, Machiavelli understood this. The modern man who masters it does not merely attract, he becomes unforgettable, unavoidable, and desired beyond measure. The power is subtle, almost imperceptible, yet utterly unstoppable. To comprehend it is to hold the key to fascination itself, the ability to engineer desire, command attention, and exist as the center of a woman's unspoken obsession without uttering a single word of pursuit.